Welcome back to the Brothers in Business podcast. Today, we're talking about commanding respect. Again, very important for us because with us having our own business, we've got to make sure that the staff, understand and respect the things that we're doing. So let's just jump straight into it. I know you got, again, some probably important points on this one.
I mean, straight off the bat, the first one that I'd make is respect is earned. It's not demanded. So what I mean by that is, just because you're asking for respect doesn't mean that you immediately get it. Your respect is earned through the actions that you take on a daily basis. And if you haven't got the right mindset where you are commanding the respect rather than demanding respect, you'll never get it.
It's just taking me back. Game of Thrones, and we always say this, you get Joffrey and he goes, you will respect me, I am the king. And obviously that's not the way of going about it. You might have a title of being a king.
Well, he shuts him down straight away. He says no true king needs to call themselves the king. People just know through the respect of them being the king.
Yeah, and if he's the one giving out the orders and he's the one that's people are listening to and going to for the advice, I think it's, to have the respect of someone, you got to come across as being competent. You got to understand. You got to be that sort of person that can articulate points and convince someone that you're correct as well, really.
We'll take the points one by one then, because there's so many things that lead to, you as an individual earning someone's respect. But the first one you've touched on is like being competent. So obviously, in whatever you're doing, if you have a good level of knowledge surrounding that particular subject, it's very difficult for people to not respect you or what you do as a person. A great example of this is in our business. We deal a lot with automotive manufacturers. Morgan is a big one that we deal with, and our dad is a phenomenal engineer and he's been doing it for 40 years. And there's not many people in the country that knows more about engineering than him. And he walked around the factory, and bear in mind, this company's over 100 years old and they know a thing or two about building cars, or apparently not, because Carl, our dad, sort of was going around and I was watching this firsthand and he was pointing out all the mistakes that they were making. And they were really founded. He wasn't criticizing for the sake of it. He was criticizing and pointing the problems out to help, to make them improve. And they took it on the chin and they were really happy with the things that he was saying. And immediately you could see the respect was just earned then and there through his knowledge on that particular subject, where he was walking around and, he was brave enough and bold enough to point out a mistake that they were making and tell them how to improve, tell them how they should do it better through his own knowledge. And their jaws were on the floor and their faces were stunned, but they were so grateful. And they looked at him almost like, the new Messiah, because he was just coming along, giving them sort of dropping just truth bombs and knowledge on them. And they were hooked. And that was really good customer for us. And, they give us £500,000 a year in business now to work alongside them to help them improve and utilize our knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I've, again, using the same person, our dad, we went in a meeting, again, a Norwegian company, very, very big, successful company. There's a big contract there to be won. And, for us to manufacture anything, we need, a drawing or something that would give us the guidelines of how that's produced, so measurements, etc. And during a phone call with this company, he's pointed out that the drawing's incorrect on the actual call, like within, 20 minutes. And they're trying to fight back, going, no, I don't think so. But then they've actually looked and gone, oh, we are wrong, sorry. And then it's, again, instantly built up the respect and the competence where they think, shit, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about, especially to the point where he's telling us that we're wrong. It's important.
Well, it translates, like I said. So for us in business, that respect is immediately translated over. Like you said, whether it wins us customers, it wins us business, but it also, it translates into sort of real life as well, whether people that you're surrounded by go to you as the source of information on a particular subject because they respect your knowledge and what you've done. Now, we can't all be great at everything. Everybody's got their own strengths and weaknesses, and their, knowledge is going to be stronger in certain areas. But this is why we talk about it in other episodes. Focus on those strengths where you can command the respect, where you have got the knowledge, monetize it. you know, like I said, Morgan, they place £500,000 worth of business every year. It's a lot. And they're not even our biggest customer. And nobody will buy off you if they haven't got the confidence in what you're selling. So again, respect is really massive. The next thing that I think really important to sort of command that respect is sacrifice, is being the first person to get your hands dirty and saying, do you know what, this is going to be a bit of a tough job, or this is something that's nobody else wants to do. But do you know what, I'm going to be first man in. I'm going to get my hands dirty and I'm going to be the one to go and do it.
Yeah, and again, using work as the same sort of situation that, you know, we started off, you know, bottom of the ladder and had to work our way up. But, you know, when there was urgent parts that needed to go out the door, I mean, you'll probably remember it, we had a big plug and they needed like a little rubber O-ring that needed to go on it. And it was about who could do the most. That's not what it was about in theory, but, you know, there was an air of competition. Now, we're always one of the ones that were doing the most in a day. And again, just doing it on something as small a scale as that, by showing and pushing and working the hardest. Again, anyone else who's doing that job, they're going, you know what, fair play, like he's doing a lot, he's putting the work in. I'm going to respect what he says or does, because they can see that you're putting the work in, the graft, and you're doing more than anyone else.
Yeah, you've raised obviously a separate point, which is another really important one. And the two go hand in hand, because sacrifice and being the hardest worker in the room completely go hand in hand. You know, I've seen people, and there are certain jobs out there that, you know, I remember we touched on another episode where Francis Ngannou, there's a guy from Cameroon who worked in a sand mine or a salt mine or something. He spent all day, every day, shoveling sand. Now, you could either be the laziest one there. It's a horrible job, but somebody has to do it. He would have been paid for it. But you could either be the worst one there and nobody will respect you, or you could be the one that works the hardest in the worst type of environment. And that can yield nothing but respect from the people around you. You're the guy charging in, unfazed by the difficult times, unfazed by the job ahead, unfazed by the amount of work that's there to be done. You just knuckle down, grit your teeth, and just say, do you know what, I'll do it, and I'll do it on my own, and you lot can all watch, and I'm not bothered. Whereas now, you only need to look at the motorways up and down England, and it's like 3 men round a shovel. It's a disgrace. You know, they're all on their phone. They're having a lunch break every 5 minutes and they're all smoking, and they're, you know, no wonder it takes them months and years to get anything done in this country. It's because no one has the energy, or no one has the sort of grit or determination to get a job done, no matter what the job is, to get it done quickly and be the hardest worker in the room. They're all just complacent and happy to be the, you know, the one stood watching.
Yeah, I mean, where do you think you got it from with, you know, how you look at these things with commanding respect? I mean, for me, I'd definitely say, you know, his dad was one of the main ones. And when it really ticked and I could see it, and we've said it before, it's like sweeping the drives. And when he looked at you after you've done it and you know you'd done a good job yourself, you'd look at it and you'd go, well, he'd tell you, you do it the first time and it would be haphazard and a bit rubbish. And then the second time and he did it and you go, you know what, you've done well, and here's your money or whatever it was that you gave at the time. I can't quite remember. But that was, for me, I was thinking, you know what, like that's how I can see it, and I can get respect from someone by doing a good job.
For me, it's been spurred on by obviously what Dad did for us. I think for me though, it's nice to be the person that your friends will go to help solve their problems, but also to be looked at as the guy that can get things done. And maybe it's just a part of who I am. I've always preferred for people to think of me and the way that I'm perceived as a guy that grits his teeth, can get results, and isn't going to cower and run away in the signs of danger. You know, I'd rather be the person that they look to, that people look to, you know, to try and get the answers or to help them out if they need it. And that's just always been in my nature. So whether it's a nature or nurture thing, I couldn't tell you, but I just think that I've always liked to be perceived that way, because I feel the worst thing for me, my worst nightmare, would be for people to perceive me as someone that hasn't got a clue what they're doing, that is useless, worthless, can't offer any benefit to anybody. And to me, that would be a nightmare of mine. So I think I just work really hard to make sure that I'm doing the opposite.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. I mean, again, we know people that they tend to be more of a drain than, you know, a benefit to someone's life. And that's, I suppose, the opposite and the flip side of this, that, you know, you want to be driving for the respect side, because the opposite of that is that people don't respect you and look at you and think, God, I can't rely on them, and God, they're not very good at that job, and I'm just going to go to someone else instead. And that's sort of the other side of the coin. So, you know, and there's no real middle ground really. It's kind of one or the other.
100%. And another big one, again, you've sort of touched on it, is, you know, commanding respect is about solving problems for yourself, for the people around you, and even for, you know, strangers, a wider audience. You know, I suppose that's kind of what charity is, or philanthropy is, you know, solving problems, helping other people that, you know, sometimes are in an unfortunate position that they can't help themselves. Sometimes that can't be helped, and sometimes it can. But, you know, commanding that respect from people is helping solve those problems. And when you're seen as someone, and again, we have to do it every single day in business, you know, there are problems that rise every single day. It's part and parcel of being in business, whether it's a staffing problem or a customer problem, a supplier problem. And we're in a fortunate business where we see such a wide range of different business facets, let's say, you know, with supply chain, sales, marketing, accounting, management, leadership, warehousing, quality of product. It's so widespread that problems can crop up in each and every area. And being the owners of the company, if one of our team members came up to us and said, I've got a problem, and we just sat there and scratched our heads and said, I don't know, I haven't got a clue, they're just going to think I'm working for an idiot. You know, they're just like, why am I wasting my time working for this guy who hasn't got a clue what he's doing, what he's talking about, how to solve the problem? Whereas if I'm able to give an informative, quick and intelligent answer to help solve that problem, again, they're going to look at me and think, do you know what? This is a guy that I can stand behind. This is somebody that I want to work for. This is somebody that I trust, and somebody that, by all accounts, you know, their livelihoods are in our hands. You know, we've got 15 people that we are entirely responsible for their family, you know, for their livelihoods. A lot of them have children, have mortgages. You know, if all of a sudden we decide that we don't know what we're doing and we can no longer run the business, we can't solve problems, you know, they're affected. They might be out of a job, and obviously, hopefully this will never happen. But if they found themselves out of a job because of our own incompetence and now they can't feed their family, that would kill me inside. So again, solving those problems is massive.
Yeah, and I think another one, I thought about it as you were talking, you were saying about people coming to us with problems. You know, you want to be a good listener as well, and to actually take on board sometimes the things that people say. And I think helping people to try to answer their own problems or give an answer to the question they might have in a smart way by redirecting questions back to see if they can do it. And they can then show themselves that they have got the power, and they can command then the respect from themselves and also then the person they're talking to.
Without a doubt. Right, next one, really big one.
Firing them out here.
I've got loads. I think it's such an important topic, because respect, certainly amongst, I don't want to again sort of tarnish or raise a problem, but certainly amongst men, I think respect is huge, and it's different types of respect for men and women. And I think it should be. And I think both are amazing in their own ways, but we're obviously both very different. You know, men at the minute, it's a tough one to go down, but that respect I don't feel is being earned by the women themselves either, because the men aren't even respecting themselves anymore. And that's the problem. So the next point that I'm sort of getting to is, to earn respect or to command respect, you've got to have respect in yourself, for your appearance, the way you look, your own personal health, your personal hygiene, even for that matter, you know. And it's true, like, you see people walking around nowadays, and honestly, it blows my mind how people can even step outside the door dressed and looking the way they do, And we were so fortunate to be brought up with a family that, a mom was really good at this, where she was saying, make sure that your nails are cut, your teeth are clean, you look presentable, and you're not going out looking like a bit of a slob. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all have days where we just nip to the shops, and that's fine. But there's no excuse for ever not brushing your teeth or sticking some deodorant under your arm or having clean shoes or clean clothes. Even if you're stepping out quickly, I'd never leave the house with dirty shoes and dirty clothes. I'd always look presentable because I've got respect in myself.
I think it's any of those things, it's the exception, not the rule, isn't it? That, if you're ever going to do these things, like say, everyone's going to do it every now and again, but yeah, hygiene, looking, again, with Dad, is the same, with shoes and shining shoes. Used to be like, you need to get your polish out, you need to shine your shoes, that you can't go out in them, So I think, it comes from above, and it comes from the people that you surround yourself with, whether it's your parents or friends. And if you're in the wrong crowds, you're more likely to be on the side of, probably not getting respect rather than being in the right crowds and trying to, spot each other and say, oh, probably wouldn't go out like that, mate. You look a bit dodgy today.
That's a good point. But I've just touched on it, and I do feel sorry for some of the women nowadays that have to look at these blokes. And I'm talking as a man, because I don't want to get myself in jail if I was to say this about women, because I do think they could do with, taking a bit more care of themselves as well. Not all of them, some of them. But blokes in general, we've lost this sort of desire to want to be respected and to care about how we look. And, I see it depends on your circles, because obviously all of my friends, pretty much all of them, they're big on, looking after themselves and looking presentable and being a gentleman and commanding that respect. But again, I feel for the people, certainly the women, that have to put up with those guys that aren't looking after themselves and they're not commanding that respect. So like you said, I think a big one is just take a look in the mirror from time to time and just have a bit of a critical evaluation of what you see.
Yeah, try and cop a look in a window of a car and just say, oh, bloody hell, I need to sort my air out. The wind's been blowing a bit too much. But yeah, like you say, with that, some people complain about not getting second dates. You were going down that road, and it's like, well, did you hold the door open? Did you sort of, pay for the date? And did you do, these things that are just chivalrous that used to be the norm that aren't anymore? And then obviously the answer to all that is then no. And then obviously it ends up being that, you think, well, she didn't want to see me again, or he doesn't want to see me again. And it's like, well, you've not got any respect from the person you've just gone and met.
If you think about what men used to be, and I keep using men because I am a man, so I can only talk from my own experience, and I don't want to talk about something that I don't know about. But men used to dress in suits and fancy hats everywhere you go. You only have to look at the Peaky Blinders series that everybody fell in love with. I've got to be honest, it's something like the coolest stuff that those guys were wearing. And I know some of it obviously it's easier in Hollywood, we'll call it, on TV and media, where they're creating sort of custom outfits. But that's what people were wearing, suits and ties and shirts. And it's gone are the days now, lads are wearing trousers halfway around their arses and dirty shoes with like hoods up and masks on, doing stupid gun signs with their fingers. And again, sort your lives out. What are you doing? And genuinely, most people, because I know from school where you look back and you think, like, we all went through that stage at school, and you try and conform to the group that are around you. So it is tough to break away from, the things that your friends are doing. But that's another great way of commanding respect, is going against the grain, doing what you think is right because you're so confident in your own conviction and self-belief, where you think this is the right way to behave. That in itself commands so much respect, because you're not just conforming to what everybody else thinks you should be doing.
Yeah. Some of the things that I'm going down this really weird phase at the minute where I'm like watching videos back of London in like 1950 and 1940, because they all do them in colour now. It's wicked. And you can see like all these people, again, like walking in the streets, and they are just, like you say, suited and booted, massive top hats. and, canes with lions' heads on.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
But it's like, it's so cool to see. And, obviously times have changed and fashion changes and it's all that sort of stuff. But, like to go back to something like that would be pretty cool. I mean, I know, it's not even a rule that, and again, I mentioned him a few times with Jordan Peterson, he does his, conferences where he has predominantly young guys go, but there's still like, probably 10, 15% women, I'd assume. But everybody, whether they're men or women as well, the men especially, they'll go dressed in suits, not because that's what they need to wear, but it's just, that's the kind of personality he's built up and the kind of respect he's got that people think, oh God, I've got to go dress smart, I've got to dress really nice, got to wear a suit, got to wear a pocket hanky and all this stuff. And I love it, I do. I'd bring it back.
I think it's important, and it is potentially slowly starting to come back. This whole self-respect, certainly as men who need to start putting some more time into, like you said, looking in the mirror. And if you are one of those people that are wandering around with your hood up, wearing a balaclava with your trousers halfway down your arse, give your head a wobble. Do you know what I mean? Sort your life out, because you're only going to look back at it after you grow up and just think, what was I doing? And, even I almost fell into the trap, to be honest with you. I got to a point where I'd raid the shelves at JD Sports and think to myself, I've bought a great sort of haul of clothing, and then I come back and my parents' face. I remember I bought this sort of like Mackenzie tracksuit once, and oh my Lord, my dad's face and my mum, I've tried to sort of show them, sort of, I've just been shopping, look at all this stuff, and they look mortified.
Yeah, but we used to even wear, do you remember the string bags that like you'd buy when you got a pair of shoes? But people used to actually wear, say people, I think even I did at one point for a little bit. I think you did. Well, I think
JD bags, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
and
the JD bags. But, so I think a lot of it, it's a phase, and it's the people that are influencing each generation. Back then, I suppose it was probably a lot of Eminem-y, hip-hoppy, that sort of stuff. And I think it's still present now. But, it's your idols and the people that you respect yourself, and you kind of emulate them a little bit.
But I do love this whole mindset switch that is happening, because like you said, they were the people that we probably had to look up to as role models when we were growing up. And now hopefully the whole point of us doing this podcast, as well as so many other people that are doing a great job of sort of motivating, Jordan Peterson, you've mentioned, is amazing at that. They're now telling the younger generation how to achieve it, how to earn it, and how to succeed from an earlier stage. And what I love is that younger generation are actually being super receptive to it, which is why we wanted to do this podcast, so that when people listen, they do start to question potentially some of their things that they're doing, even from a younger age, because we didn't have podcasts growing up. We didn't have anything like this.
Didn't even have an iPhone.
No, we didn't. I remember the first, we used to have BlackBerry and BlackBerry Messenger,
BBM,
and MSN, and watch your BBM pin. Shocking. But we had to go through and we had to learn. And that was the nice thing of our upbringing, that, it was very natural. But now people are also getting a lot of bad information from the wrong people. And, we need to sort of fight back and try and give as much of the good information from the right people. And, I truly believe, and obviously what we're telling people is the best way to be, to try and command that respect, to respect each other, respect yourself. I don't see as how anybody in their right mind could disagree with that message.
No, and, I've said the opposite of that is that you're just getting disrespected and people don't really want to be around you, or the people that do want to be around you are on that same sort of level, and you're just slowly on a downward spiral, getting worse and worse and worse. Mental health isn't getting any better. Obviously with social media, that doesn't help, and all these things funnel into just then being in a constant downward mindset, whereas what you want to try and do is be on an upward spiral and upward mindset where you clean water and clean messaging and all that sort of stuff. It's positive. It's what people want.
Look in the mirror, people. Look in the mirror. Take some time. Just, if you don't like what you see, take some time to do some reflection, because genuinely, there is nothing more important in life than being respected, most importantly by yourself. But obviously those around you that love and care about you, you should command that respect from them. And remember that respect is not demanded, it's earned. So if you take anything away from what we've talked about today, command that respect. And trust me, it will pay dividends in the long run. But thank you very much for watching. Make sure you follow and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.